Well, guys, Friday, June 27th is the first round of the NHL draft, but I'm here with my guy, Chris Babos, to talk about the mock draft a little bit. So, Chris, how's it going, man? I know that you're in Buffalo right now. So, how's it going, man?
I can't complain. A little bit of a work trip, so that's always fun. Get the chance to meet some NHL prospects today, and get to meet a whole heck of a lot of them tomorrow. I think there's 90 players here this weekend, and I believe 83 of them are competing and testing tomorrow. They've done interviews most of the week with the different teams. Just it's the best opportunity for the organizations themselves to collect their own data. So you have a lot of scouts in the area, a lot of general managers and whatnot. And it's kind of a bigger deal this year than it normally would be, simply because of the decentralized draft that they're having. It's probably going to be a one-off because everybody seems to realize that it's a mistake and that you should have a draft with the draft floor and places where GMs can go in and chat and talk and whatnot. They're not going to have that this year. So I personally thought they would have learned during COVID pandemic. Uh, Maybe that wasn't the move, but they elected to go with that for this year, and I'm excited. I feel very blessed to be here in Buffalo this weekend.
Well, best of luck to you, and hopefully this weekend turns out to be a success. I mean, it's a great accomplishment, great thing to travel to do something that you love. So, yeah, best of luck on that, buddy.
Thanks, man.
So, as as well as other hockey fans as well know, the New York Islanders, they have the number one pick this year.
Mm-hmm.
And following them is the San Jose Sharks and the Chicago Blackhawks, Utah Mammoth, whom I
Mm-hmm.
covered for. They have the number fourth pick. But in terms of the first overall pick, so this is the mock draft. I believe that Matthew Schaefer could go number one. I feel the Islanders will go with him. Some might go with Michael Mesa
Mm-hmm.
for the number one, but I'm gonna go with Matthew Schaefer for Islanders number one.
I that's how they should go. I think that there's maybe I'm going to go with the word minuscule chance, but I think there's a chance that they look a little further down the TSN draft board. James Hagens played at Boston College this year. He's sitting at TSN 5. Spent much of the year as the projected number one, and even though Schaefer didn't play a ton of games, he showcased his skills. And it's really difficult to find a puck moving defenseman in the NHL, especially when you've got the likes of a Cal McCarr, a Quinn Hughes. That's in nowhere are we saying Matthew Schaefer is going to be that caliber of player, but he has at least the tools to potentially get there. So while the NHL itself, it seemingly always is looking for that top six center to play that one center, that two center spot. I think it really comes down to whether or not the Islanders can look a gift horse in the mouth. Really, they've been presented an opportunity to potentially draft a franchise changing defenseman. I think they also have to go with that at one.
And the Islanders, we have a new front office and new
Mm-hmm.
culture, new everything. So even though the team they are looking for some scoring, but if if Matthew Schaefer can be that top elite defenseman, then that's a huge, huge addition that they're
Mm-hmm.
bringing to the team because the team does need defense as well. And when you bring a guy like him, that could really do a lot. So as per now, if they do go number one with him, Michael Mesa, I could definitely see him going number two to the San Jose Sharks. San Jose Sharks, as we know, they have Will Smith and
Mm-hmm.
Macklin Celebrini. So that could be a nice trio there in San Jose. So what do you think about that?
Yeah, I think you're dead on. Michael Mace is an excellent talent. I would be drooling over the opportunity to get him combined with Celebrini. Um, Yeah, no, I think if they had their druthers, San Jose wants Schaefer. Like, I don't think it's going to happen, but I think that's ideally who they want. I still think they would be plenty happy with Michael Mesa too.
Number three, I'm gonna keep it the top five instead of top 10. So
Okay.
the third one, Chicago Blackhawks. Do you think that they will go with James Haggins or with Porter Martone?
That's a tough call. Martone's made a huge surge up the draft board in the last couple of months, as Higgins has fallen. And it really wasn't anything Higgins himself has done. He just played in a much tougher league in the NCAA as a freshman in that league. There's things that you have to learn and adjust to coming from the U.S. National Development Team program that, you don't necessarily play that NCAA caliber of opponent. So the fact that Higgins was able to adjust his game and get better over the course of the year speaks a lot to his talent. But a lot of teams seem to like Martone. I need to do a little bit more research on that before the draft, which I'm running out time before the combine, but we still got a good month after the combine for the draft. So, um, hmm. Yeah, I will go with Martone there just because they have Bedard. So I think that actually is probably how that's going to play out. A chance to add a very powerful winger to Connor Bedard is something that's really hard to pass up.
Yeah, Martone, he's coming out of OHL and he's
Mm-hmm.
a power forward. So, I mean, Utah Mammoth already has, okay, speaking of Utah, they're number four, and they already have, key guys there like Clayton Keller, Dylan Gunther, Logan Cooling.
Mm-hmm.
Sure, it's tempting to get Porter Martone, but I do feel like Utah is a team that they do need some defense. So maybe they could benefit a guy like James Higgins. So, but clearly Utah is trying to move the needle.
Mm-hmm.
It's a new team, new city. I'm not entirely sold by that new name that they have.
I
So
love it.
I even wrote
I,
an article about it because I write for them on Fansided called Utah on Ice.
nice.
But I feel that this team, they are close in terms of getting one or two big pieces for them to take that extra step because they had talent there. But one of the biggest problems with Utah was closing out games,
Mm-hmm.
and they need help on defense. So we'll see. So maybe James Higgins could be the answer to that, or maybe a
Jacob.
guy, or maybe a guy in Anton Fondell. Fondell, I think that's how you pronounce his last name.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think?
Yeah, I think there's a couple of places they could go. It kind of really depends upon what they need. You can get the 200-foot center in James Higgins. Uh, if this might be a little controversial, and I guess we'll find out. But um, if Utah needs defense, there's a guy sitting ranked inside the top 10. His name's Radim Martka, I believe is how you pronounce it. He's from the Western Hockey League. He played for Seattle last year. 6'6" right-handed defenseman. They're incredibly tough to find, generally speaking. A 6'6" defenseman outright, but one that's specifically right-handed is even harder to find. Um, it, I often say that is probably one of my favorite positions to scout because it's so important in the NHL. So I think that is something that they could do if the scouts have um, put enough stock into Mertka's uh, season, and if he can bring that. But yeah, I don't think you can go wrong with Higgins. Jake O'Brien is another player that is really really good. That could fit the bill for Utah. And on the name, I think it's great. I can't wait for the Utah Mammoth Nashville Predators battle. I think they need to do some kind of prehistoric cup would be absolutely fantastic, and just create a fun rivalry out of that would be my suggestion.
Yeah, that would be an interesting rivalry. But for them, he is one of the best prospects. He's considered one of the best prospects. So Utah, they had to play the cards right and look into him because if not, then either teams like Anaheim or even Seattle Kraken could get him.
Mm-hmm.
So
Keep an eye on Philadelphia. Philadelphia. They
oh yeah,
have
Philadelphia, yeah, they're sitting at number 6. Yeah.
they're sitting at 6. They would probably burn Broad Street down once they don't select the center. Because everybody in at least on the social media Flyers community is like the Flyers need a center, and they do. Don't get me wrong, they do. But if there's a chance that you can have a 6'6" right-handed defenseman in the top 10 of the draft, and assuming that the players like the Mises, the Higgins, those players are gone, Martone's gone, then I think you've got to take a look at it. We can't end this call without me mentioning the two Swedish kids. You mentioned Frondell, the kid he played with, Victor Eklund. They're both ranked inside the top 10. They played in the second Swedish league last year. I'm probably going to butcher this. I think it was the Allsvenskan, if I remember that in my brain correctly. The team itself got promoted to the top league in Sweden, the SHL. So those two players next year, assuming they play again in Sweden, will face the best competition that's available, and outside of the KHL, potentially one of the best leagues in Europe. So Frondell has an absolutely elite shot. I think I just had it. Tampa Bay. Kucherov. There we go. I think the way Kucherov uses his one timer, Frondell's one timer is already NHL ready, which is just insane to think about. And I if a team can somehow manage to get in position to grab both of those players, I think that would be an absolutely phenomenal move. It's going to take a lot of draft capital for somebody to do it, but keeping those two players together, uh, I don't know, something about that seems like an incredibly successful plan to me. Uh, you know, I guess in comparison to what they would have to give up in order to get essentially two top 10 draft picks in this draft.
And last but not least, speaking of Nashville, they're sitting at number 5, and they have a chance to grab either one of them, especially Frondell.
Yeah, I would absolutely. Well, I would be upset as somebody that covers the Flyers that Frontal would go there because I really want to see him in Philadelphia opposite of Michkov personally. But yeah, no, I think that would be a great choice for a Nashville team that still has stars. They still have. I think Marchessault was a 1-year deal. They still have Stamkos.
Mm-hmm.
They still have Soros, so they have protection in net. They still have Roman Yossi, I believe. So Nashville is one of those players that there's no way they should be picking 5 based off what their roster was. It didn't work this year. So it'd be very interesting to see kind of how they approach the draft because they're in a much different position than most of the teams that are in that top 10.
All right, well, guys, that does it for our top 5 NHL mock draft. But question, last but not least, do you think Nashville will be better compared to last season? Because
100%.
they did call people off guard in the sense how they played. They expected so much out of them. So you feel that they will be better.
I do. I believe the quote from Luke Shen, who got traded from Nashville, was something to the extent of I've never been on a team that couldn't score goals. Just outright. I believe he said it in like December or January. And that was the reality for Nashville. They just, even though they had goal scorers, they had Stamkos, they had Marchessault, just couldn't put the puck in the net. And that led them to a number 5 pick in the draft. But like I said, I think that they're in a very unique spot to add a premium talent. Whether or not that's how quick that player is going to be ready, that's a question. But like I said, I think the Predators are still in a good spot this season.